So I did the whole self-improvement thing for a lot of years. I did the workouts, I did the cold showers, I did the meditation, I did the dieting, I tried all that stuff, and I found a good amount of benefit in a lot of it. But one thing that I've noticed now that I'm a little bit older and I've been, kind of obsessed with those things for a couple of years now, is that it can turn into a bit of a trap the more attention that you give it. And I don't mean that in the sense that self-improvement is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's good that a lot of young people, a lot of young men especially, want to better their lives. They want to be self-sustaining, they want to get in good shape, they want to take care of themselves. I think that that's absolutely a good thing. But it becomes a problem when you start attaching your worth and your identity to it. And that happens very, very sneakily, because once you get on self-improvement, you start seeing immediate benefits. Your life starts getting better, you start getting in better shape, start feeling better about yourself. And pride starts to sneak in a little bit. You start to view yourself as, you start to see yourself as a different version of yourself. But that is short-winded, because I think a lot of people are self-improving from a place of fear and not from a place of love and acceptance of yourself. So there's a quote that I really like. It says, "Any ambition that arises out of fear is corrupted." And I think that you're not moving from a place of love and peace and acceptance when you're just trying to get a physique because you're afraid that you'll never, get a good woman, or you are forcing yourself to find ways to make money because you feel that you'll be trapped forever if you don't find a way to make, some kind of online income, or, just the common things that the self-improvement community usually preaches. You start to attribute your worth to these things. You start to beat up on yourself when you don't hit those milestones, when you're not consistent with your workouts, when you mess up on a streak, when you meditate for less minutes than you said you were going to meditate. You know what I mean? You just start playing these mental games where, instead of attributing your worth to who you are and your soul and your purpose, you start attributing it to these little tick marks. They become tally marks. They become a way for you to cope with your insecurity, as opposed to sitting with your feelings and dealing with them and letting them go. Ultimately, it takes you away from the present moment. It takes you away from where you are right now. And I think that that's a big trap that a lot of people fall into, because they forget that self-improvement is just a tool. You know what I mean? It's not the end-all be-all. It's not the thing that's going to bring you lasting satisfaction. That can only be found in the present moment. And so I think that it's good to do these things, but you shouldn't do them because you're the kind of person that's on self-improvement. Once you start identifying as that just becomes another ego attachment. You should do them because they're good for you. It's a good thing to take care of your body. It's a good thing to find a way to provide for yourself and the people that you care about. It's a good thing to have money. It's a good thing to obtain all the things that self-improvement promises, But if you start assigning your identity and your self-worth to it, that's where it gets shaky, because pride comes before a fall. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to ground yourself and to find some semblance of find compassion for yourself, as opposed to only having ambition because you're afraid of not getting something, or you're afraid of losing something, or whatever it may be. You feel some lack within yourself. And that's why you want to get better, because you think that once I get enough, I'll be enough. But that's the biggest lie that's ever been told. It's the have, do, be versus be, do, have principle. You think that once I have enough, then I'll do enough, then I'll be enough. But in reality, the way that it should be is I realize that I am enough, and then I do things, and then I get the things that I want. So it's just it's a way of moving. It's a way of living that's different than trying to get everything you've ever wanted because you're afraid. You know, you become a lot more present. You become a lot more emotionally aware of what's going on, because everything is flowing from you. So if it's just you can get caught up in the compensation, and you think that the compensation is what's going to bring you fulfillment, but it's not. You have to move from a place of love and peace and acceptance, and then everything else will mold itself around that, you know, as opposed to trying to get the things to finally feel enough. Because it really will never satisfy you. I think the lifestyle that these bigger self-improvement YouTubers purport, it promises to give you everything that you want, but it's just another marketing tactic. It's like, it's selling you the idea that once you're in control of everything in your life, once you're on top of everything, every single detail, then you'll finally be the person that you want to be. And in reality, you don't have control over anything. The only thing that you can control is your own mind and your emotions. And you can change your actions in the way that you move from, but you're just trying to maintain a facade of control by micromanaging every single aspect of your life. You know, like we've been sold the idea that we have to be perfect, that we have to have everything in line all the time, 24/7, or we're not enough, or we're not worthy. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. You know, we are imperfect creatures, and the world is an imperfect place. And it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to not have everything figured out. You know, it's okay to still be figuring things out in this life. You don't need to have all of your chips in order to be present and live and allow life to flow through you, you know, because that's all you really want, is just to let go a little bit and let things flow the way that they're meant to play out, you know, because everything happens for a reason. It's not like we can take any of those things with us when we die. You know, you can obtain the entire world and you'll still end up in the dirt like everybody else. And that can sound scary, but it's not, you know. It gives you the freedom to live life the way that you want to live it, and to not be so caught up in these worldly things all the time and pretending like that's going to give you any sliver of satisfaction, you know. So it's better to just be here and be okay with your faults and be okay with the things that you need to improve on, while actively trying to improve upon them. You know, it doesn't mean sit around and do nothing all day. It just means have a little bit more compassion for yourself, because you really don't have that much control over how the world behaves. Just some quick thoughts that were on my mind today. Hope you guys have a good week, and I'll see you again soon.